Hello, thank you for being here. My name is Mike Padrick, and this is Web Application Penetration Testing Methodology. It always gets asked, so I thought I'd get this out of the way. These are my socials. Twitter, I'm at FearlessSec, and on LinkedIn, you can just search me as Michael Padrick. Okay. Who am I? Well, like I said, my name is Mike Padrick. I'm 34 years old. I am a husband and a father of two. I'm a former poolman turned penetration tester. This is my first job in InfoSec. I was a poolman for 12 years and then with the change, and I am now in penetration testing. I am a 2-time CVE holder. One is for stored cross-site scripting and the other is a remote OS command injection. Fun fact about that last one, I submitted it with my friend Matt Kiley at the same time last year in August, and they said no. We get an email yesterday morning saying, here's your new CVE ID. So that's fun. So that makes 2 for us. Now, why should you listen to me? You saw that I've only been doing this for about a year, a little over a year. Why should you listen to me? Well, most of my studies have been web app penetration testing, and I've been doing this almost exclusively for a career. About 85% of my engagements are web app. That's it. That's the only reason you should listen to me. That's all I got. So hope you're still here. So now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, the actual methodology, why you're here listening to me talk. First note, no tools for you. All right. I'm not going to be talking about tools. I'm just going to be talking about the methodology itself. There will be a few exceptions, Burp Suite, Nmap, maybe some extensions within Burp Suite, but that's about it. Otherwise, there are so many tools and so many different ways to do everything I'm about to mention that I kind of want you to take notes on what I'm saying and then go find a tool that you like that works for you. Just because it works for me doesn't mean it'll work for you. Okay, so now then, for the web app hackery. The actual methodology is very similar to network penetration testing, right? You follow the same steps. You're doing your enumeration, your intelligence gathering, right? You're doing your scanning, things like that. Then you're doing your threat modeling. Where would this app be the most vulnerable? What are the most relevant threats? Like, let's take an e-commerce site, for example. You're tasked with doing a pen test on an e-commerce site. You go, you look at it. What is the most targeted part of that application? What do you think should be the one that you test first? Kind of what we're talking about here with threat modeling. Then you've got your vulnerability analysis, your exploitation, your post-exploitation, sort of, and then everybody's favorite, reporting. Now, what do I mean by sort of? I'll tell you when we get there, okay? So, initial enumeration, we're doing Nmap, right? Unauthenticated and authenticated directory file fuzzing. I know I said no tools, but think derb, buster, go buster, FF, fuzz faster, you fool, things like that, all right? Then you're gonna wanna spider the site. OSINT has a good spidering tool, crawling with Burp Suite. And I actually came across a tool recently that will spider it for you. I forget what it's called, but there you go. You're always going to check for robots.txt and sitemaps.xml. Not always going to be there, but you will have a gold mine if you can find it. All right, so even if you didn't do any sort of directory fuzzing or anything like that, you want to check for that first, okay? OSINT. It's not just for being creepy, all right? You can use OSINT for more than tracking down an ex-girlfriend, all right? You can use Google Dorks to find really what you're looking for. Shodan is a fantastic resource. I don't know if it's once a year, but it seems like it is. They have a lifetime membership for $5. It happened a few months ago. If you get a chance, if you see it, follow them on Twitter and do it. I highly recommend it. GitHub is another fantastic OSINT source. Forums are a great OSINT source. You're looking for things like default credentials. You're looking for things like maybe some random username that you didn't think of, things like that. There's other OSINT capabilities, but those are like the core ones for just a standard, web app pen test. And now we're moving on to information leakage. I don't know if you can see that. I was trying to make it happen, but there's a little bit of a water drip coming out of that cord there. What are you looking for? Well, software versions, you're looking for configuration files, things like that. Sorry that this is blurry. I tried really hard to get a good screenshot that was clear. Wasn't working for some reason. But if you look closely, you can see I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but right here, it is on the Git products, products ID example, HTTP, right here. Down here shows the software version.
Hey, Mike, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, I want to jump in. Your slides were not updating for the group for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was still on like your title slide, and now your screen just went dark. Now it looks like you're on the right slide again. I don't know what was going on there.
Okay.
But also on the right side of the screen, there's 3 tabs. There's Event, My Agenda, and Session.
Yeah.
If you click Session, you'll see the chat from your people in the session.
Yeah, I see that, but my screen was full screen, so I couldn't.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that's why. It's not that I can't see the chat.
I don't know if it's when it's on full screen, if it's just not updating for the rest of the people or what, but it looks like it's working now. So
can you see socials?
I can see socials. Yep.
All right. Well, then I'll just keep moving on.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. So I'll just do it like this then. So I'll move this over so I can actually see the chat then. Man, this is my very first talk at a convention, and it is going amazingly well. All right, I'll do that. Can you guys see the screen still? Perfect. Okay. So first time's always a bit weird. It really is. You're right, Sam. Okay. So who am I? Talked about that already. I will move on to there we go. All right. Methodology, quick note, hacker voice. I'm in. And let's just go to where I was. We'll start back here at OSINT. All right. So it isn't just for being creepy. Google Lorks, show it in GitHub forums, things like that, right? It's great stuff. Information leakage, here we go. So like I was saying, I don't know if you can see this. I tried to get a really clear screenshot, but it wouldn't work. But all of these examples you're going to see, by the way, are from Portsugar Academy. So it's nothing that you can't go practice yourself. And that is also a fantastic resource to learn. So down here, you can read it. It reads Apache stress and then the version number, all right? Software version disclosure. And then this is an example of source code disclosure that I have up on the screen. But you're also looking for emails and PII, right? Things like that. What I have highlighted here, I don't know if you can see my mouse when I'm doing that or not, but what I have highlighted at the top is the URL that I found it at, and the bottom is the actual code that I was looking for to pass the lab. So, and that's within the source code disclosure, all right? What's next is authentication. Again, you're looking for default credentials, username enumeration. You want to make sure that what you're doing supports 2-factor, and you're looking for accounts that'll lock after a certain number of failed logins. Now, I know this is penetration testing methodology that I'm talking about, but in the end, we all want things to be more secure. So you want that to happen. You want to see that things have 2-factor. You want to see that you can't just throw a ton of passwords at one account. If you can, that's a finding. Put that down. And then if you can get the passwords from that, that's another finding. put that down. All right. And so what do I have here on the right? Well, this is an example of username enumeration. I was able to find that the login screen read username was incorrect, even though I had the username and the password. So I just sprayed usernames until I saw password was incorrect. And the username was AE right there. All right. Next slide is post-authentication. Now, remember when I said earlier, post-authentication sort of, it's more of the same. You're just in the web app instead of on the surface of it. All right. So when you're doing this, you want to make sure that the user ID, you want to see, I should say, if the user ID is used to retrieve data. You're thinking an IDOR, okay? And then you want to check features that change the account information. So in this example, it's hard to tell. I couldn't get a GIF to work on the slides, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of explanation. On this one, what was happening was I was acting as if I was going through an automated chat session. Okay. Mine on the top left, if you can read, it reads download transcript /1.txt. Mine was /2. And the dude was rude, didn't give me any sort of information, things like that. Wouldn't even help me out with my password. Okay. I changed that to a /1. And if you can read, he was very kind to whoever Hal is. Hal's a jerk. I don't like Hal. And then he was going through, and then he said, okay, so my password is that password. Okay, so that's basically an IDOR. You want to make sure that that's not the case, that can't happen. But if it can, it's a finding, and you win. What's cool about being a red teamer, by the way, is you win either way. You win by either going up against an application that's incredibly secure, you did your best, you hit it, and it was solid, or you win by finding IDORs or default creds or getting an RCE or what have you. Okay. So now on to account management. Now I know what you're thinking to yourself, Mike, why aren't there any more memes? I'm not that creative. Okay. So account management. Users are notified on account updates. So let's say you're attacking a web app and you created your own account just as a test. You put in your email address, you did whatever, and then you went ahead and you wanted to attack it. Well, if you were able to get in and you're able to change your password, did you get an email verifying that? That's kind of what you're looking for. Okay. And when you're doing a password reset, you want to make sure that it's not revealing any sort of information. Like, for example, vetsecon@gmail.com versus v_n at nothing there, right? You're looking for some sort of general obfuscation. If not, that could be considered a finding, depending on how you want to go about it. And then again, requires a password. Any significant change, whatever you're looking for, whatever you're doing, you want to make sure that any significant change requires a password. Email change, password change requires a password. Go figure, right? 2FA, things like that, MFA, fun stuff. Now on to configuration. Again, this is methodology. From top to bottom, what I'm doing is what I would do on a web app, what I have done and what I have done to be successful in web apps. It's just top to bottom, right? What I look for. And if you are wanting to get into web apps, I think this would help you. And that's kind of why I'm just kind of going over a highlight of things also. I want you to go in and I want you to find one part of this that really interests you and dig deep. I'm just giving you like the 30,000 foot level of all of this, okay? So configuration, no unnecessary services are exposed, right? So you don't want to find an admin panel on 8080 or 8443. That's not good, right? If you can find that, if you can find the admin panel, if you can get in, you can brute force it, you win, right? Or if you can guess, if admin is a thing, oh, admin, please change your passwords, people, all right? You want to make sure that everything's up to date, all right? And I know I said no tools. Wappalizer is amazing for this. Just use it, all right? It'll help you out a lot on this part. You want to go in and you want to make sure that directory indexing is not enabled. And you want to make sure that source code is not disclosed. So you don't want to find index.php with little enya. You don't want to find any backup files. As an attacker, you do, but you know what I mean. You don't want to find these things because it is not, it's not good for the client. You know, the client needs to be secure. That's kind of what your job is here. And if they have that disclosed, that's a finding. Write that down. Okay. Server-side request forgery. This one's fun. All right. So here's an example of server-side request forgery. Sam, you wrote, is about showing the client what they are doing well just as much as where they need to improve. Exactly. I actually don't think I included a reporting slide, but having a well done section, a kudos section, I think is more important because nobody wants to just get a report saying, here's how you suck. Congratulations, right? People want to see, what did I actually do well? So if you find that you couldn't get any sort of backup files, put that in there. Say, good job. This wasn't disclosed. Hey, I tried IDORs. That wasn't the possibility. Good job. You know, make sure to include that as well. People like getting pats on the back. Good call out, Sam. All right. So SSRF, server-side request forgery. So what are we looking for? Some common injection parameters, right? And all these you can do through Burp Suite as well, or Zap if you like Zap better. You're looking for things like access equals, admin equals, DBG or debug, create. You know, think common injection parameters like that. Test if you can test if SSRF is within open redirects. You know, if you can find it, see if you can do that. Try using localhost or 127.0.0.1 payloads or any other internal payloads if you know them. All right. And again, I have an example of a very basic SSRF on the screen from Portsawyer Academy. So you can always go practice this yourself. All right. If you're doing out of bounds testing, use Burp Collaborator. All right. And then finally, you can inject some sort of SSRF payload into the refer header. By the way, does how refer is spelled, does that bother anyone else? It's bothered me for a long time. Now on to cross-site request forgery. They have out there implemented CSRF protections. Make sure that those are present, please. You want to make sure that CSRF tokens are strictly validated in every case, and they cannot be bypassed. All right. CSRF cannot be bypassed with other users' valid tokens. So if you don't have someone testing with you, ask for 2 accounts. See if you can do one authenticated on yours that's using someone else's tokens and vice versa, right? Okay. That's just a quick and dirty, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't situation. And then CSRF protections are unpredictable with high entropy. All right, how do you check that? Well, on Burp Sequencer, that will test for cookies, high entropy, things like that. Fun stuff. Go for that one. All right. CSRF example. Well, this is the only slide that has 2 screenshots on one. I promise. All right. Step 1, update your email. Pretty simple. And this is a very simple CSRF example as well, by the way. Step 2, generate the POC. All right. Normally, when you generate a CSRF POC, it'll be hosted on a site that you can control, and it can be delivered with a very simple string right there. All right, using image, source, things like that. If the request can be used with the GET method. What I'm doing here is being hosted by Portswigger's Attacker Lab is what they have it. They're pretending that it's something that I can control, something that I'm hosting myself. and it's a post method. All right. Step 3, profit. I updated the POC to read super fake at fake.fake. I uploaded that, and now my username is Wiener, and my email is superfake at fake.fake. All right. Very, very simple, very basic cross-site request forgery example. Parameter testing. This one's fun. Ever since I learned about Param Miner, which is an extension of Burp Suite, and the fun part about that is that can be used on both community and pro. Okay, so unless it got updated recently. You want to test for unkeyed or hidden parameters, okay? And then test every query parameter for SQL, NoSQL, cross-site scripting, command injections, all sorts of different fun things like that, all right? If you have a SQL payload, you're confident it'll work, but it's just not working, try using NoByte right before the payload, all right? Use SQL inline comment sequence, and I'm just reading what you can see on this screen, but it helps, right? Everything that I wrote here are things that I do, things that I've had success with as well. So, you know, URL encode the payloads. You can do that through CyberChef. If you search for CyberChef, it'll help you URL encode, or you can search URL encoding, and it makes life a whole lot easier that way as well. That could help bypass a whole lot of different things. That might even help you bypass a WAF if you're going up against one. Not always, not usually even, but it might. All right, you want to test file uploads to cross-site scripting. All right, that's a fun one. Use Intruder to determine allowed HTML tags if some tags are blacklisted. What do I mean by that? Well, you're using Intruder, you upload PHP since Sam wants to get started on PHP. All right, you realize that's not working. PHP 2, PHP 3, 4, 5, PHTML, things like that. See if any of those will work. All right. And then you want to just change the get to post, vice versa. And by the way, I don't know if you guys knew this. There's more than just those two. There's more than get and post. So file upload. This one's fun. This one can be very dangerous if it's allowed. All right, so test for unrestricted file uploads. So what I mean by that, they say, oh, we only accept JPEG. Put in a PNG, put in a text file. If it uploads, it's unrestricted. Even though they said they only take JPEG, maybe they don't. Test for file type validation. Change the content type header from within the form data of the request. Again, something you can do with Burp Suite. Pretty simple to do. And I mentioned this earlier, and you can see it here. Attempt bypasses if blacklisting is observed. If PHP is blacklisted, try PHP 5, right? Because everybody loves PHP, right, Sam? You mentioned it once. I'm not using you from now on. So if you know how, include malicious code within an image metadata. If you don't know how, that's something I struggle with too. Don't feel bad. Google is amazing. You can find it. All right. And then finally, you're going to want to test for some file extension obfuscation. Google is your best friend. People ask me, hey, Mike, what's the number one tool you use? Google. All right. So try trailing characters such as exploit.php with a period. Okay. URL encoding, again, you can find that. Semicolons or URL encoded no-byte characters help out a lot. Like my example right here is exploit.asp:.jpg, or even put in a no-byte before the JPEG, right? Things like that help out a lot. Now here's an example. As you can see, I uploaded a cute little kitten right there. Find and upload possibility is step 1. Step 2, find the fake request. In Burp Suite, you can use Logger. There's a couple of other extensions you can use. There's one that's built in under, I'm drawing a blank right now on the name. It'll come to me as soon as I'm done presenting. That's just how this works, right? But if you find the request. And then step 3, I didn't have a picture of it, so I just wrote it right here. You're going to want to create, if this accepts PHP, or if it's built around PHP or anything like that, you want to create an exploit.php. All right. And what does this do? Well, this is just a very simple PHP exploit that will just echo the contents of the secret file in Carlos's home directory. Once that's done, you want to just change the request path to my exploit, which I titled exploit.php, and find the secret. Step 5 is profit, except step 5 is gone, and here's the profit. That is the secret in the bottom right hand in the response. DOM-based vulnerability testing. I have it at the bottom, but I'm going to mention it first. DOM Invader is your new best friend when it comes to DOM vulnerability testing. A buddy of mine pointed it out to me. It has become a staple in every web app I do. I love it. How do you find it? You bring up Google and you bring up Burp. Not, you don't bring up Google. You bring up Burp Suite, and then you bring up, you go to proxy, and then web browser. It brings up Burp Suite's Chromium. Upper right-hand corner, it's got the tools, it's got the plugins. That is where you will find DOM Invader. Thank me later. All right. Actually, really think if you know him, thank Eric Getchell later. He's the one that pointed it out to me. So, JavaScript code is a common source for testing. You're looking for different things like document.url, document.document, URI, location, window name, history, push site, things like that, right? Search for sinks that can lead to DOM vulnerabilities. DOM Invader will help you find sinks. You don't even need to know what a sink is. If you're using DOM Invader, it is that good of a tool. I love DOM Invader. If you haven't figured that out yet, it's an awesome tool. Example, step 1, you're going to want to create a canary. This is what DOM Invader looks like within Burp Suite's Chromium. I have everything activated, and I have Fearless DOM as my canary. All right, and this is just the random URL that I was dropped on, and I've got a test right there. Pretty simple. What I'm going to do, I'm going to inject that canary into the forms and the URL, and it literally does it for you. Inject URL, inject forms, copy canary, things like that. It does the DOM attack for you. It's amazing. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm injecting it. I have Fearless DOM, and it was found in one place. Sinks right here. Okay, it was found in document.write. So what is this? Well, burp DOM cross-site scripting, or XSS, Fearless DOM location search. That's where I know I'm going to attack. Okay, so what do you do now? Now you, excuse me. Now you open up the console, and you go to the sources right here, and you look for it. Let X equal your canary, what you found here. Burp DOM XSS is right here. That's what you're looking for. Okay. And then click the link provided in the console to find the injection point. Okay. Right here, PHP X equals your payload. Test. Create the payload. And step 5 is profit. DOM cross-site scripting found. You do a little bit of work. You got to know what you're doing. DOM does the heavy lifting. Not DOM. DOM Invader does the heavy lifting. All right. Now, finally, the last thing we look for, web cache poisoning. Param miner. Again, my favorite extension. Param miner. Use it. Okay. You can use it to find and identify unkeyed inputs. You can try to even throw a cross-site scripting into a poisoned cache, right? A good example is X-forwarded host. Just try it. Things like that. You never know what's going to happen. Check if the response content is dynamically generated from cookies. All right, these are just different things you want to look for. Unkeyed UTM query parameters such as UTM content. You want to cloak arbitrary parameters. What do I mean by that? Well, look, you got to get example 1, 2, 3 question mark excluded param equals bad stuff here. And you want to test for fat get requests. Get param innocent HTTP1 ... param equals bad stuff here. All right. These are my sources. This is what I've used. The Getch, great resource. GitHub right here, OWASP testing checklist. Port Savior Academy. All the examples came from Port Savior Academy. It's a fantastic resource. It's free. I think that's the best part. And if you don't know, if you're not aware, PortSwigger is the company that actually made Burp Suite. Okay, and they give you these resources for free to learn. So it's fantastic. I highly recommend them. AppSetMonkey.com. Okay, great, another great resource. And finally, Web Attack Cheat Sheet on GitHub, Riramar. There you go. Does anybody have any questions? I know I went through a lot and I went through pretty quickly. Any questions for me? I know it takes a minute to type, so I'll wait. Jason, you are very welcome. My first pen test. Oh man, I can get into generics. My very first pen test, I was honestly terrified. I didn't know. I had heard so many horror stories. I made the mistake of listening to Jack Ryder's podcast. What's it called? Anyway, where they just talk about amazing hackers and things like that. And I just heard of my very first podcast listening to that one was a one where everything just went wrong. So my very first pen test was me going, am I allowed to log in? Am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to do that? I was very scared. And then a senior pen tester on the team sat me down. Everything was virtual, working from home. He sits me down and he goes, listen, Mike, I need you to realize that sometimes when you try to break stuff, stuff breaks. And that's okay. That's your job. Your job is to break stuff. And ever since, I've been very, very happy, very thankful for that talk, which was very quick, and it worked out for me. It worked out pretty well. Darknet Diaries is what I was thinking of. All right. Sam, I missed whether you have done any certs. If you have, I'm curious what the breakdown would have been between learning from studying for those versus outside of that context. Well, I do. I'm sorry. I didn't mention that, did I? I have 2 certificates. And then if I have 2 certificates, and if my report gets accepted, I'll have 3. I have the eLearn Junior Penetration Tester certificate, and I have the eLearn Certified Professional Penetration Tester certificate. And if my report gets accepted, I will have passed the OSWP, the waifu one, the waifu course, the wireless penetration one from Offensive Security. The difference between those, where I feel like studying web app, not going for a certificate, allowed me to feel like I'm not being stressed, allowed me to realize that I'm learning what I'm learning for fun, like something I'm actually interested in, something that I can kind of breathe and take my time with. And because of that, I was able to retain it better, the information I was learning for web app. When I'm studying for a test, things like that kind of, I feel like I need to cram, but I think that would be the main difference. What are your favorite tools other than DOM Invader? Well, it depends on what I'm doing. So SQL Map, I think that's everyone's favorite tool. I love Burp Suite and just the amount of stuff you can do with it, all the extensions you can do with it through there. CO2 is a great extension with Burp Suite. If you haven't tried that one out, I highly recommend you do. For directory fuzzing, directory busting, I really like dir search. That's a good one. There's a tool that my friend made called Threaded 3000. That's just a real simple tool. Basically, you just put in an IP address and it shows you all the open ports, so you can make a nmap request pretty easier. Things like that. I am sure I have more tools that I will think of later. So if you haven't already, connect with me on LinkedIn and ask me again, and I'm sure I could get you a more comprehensive list. Joel asks, would I recommend to get the Burp Suite certification? I've read that it could. So go through PortStrigger, go through all of the labs, write as much that it could be good to have. Okay. So yes, I would say go for it if you can. It is a very, very difficult test. This is no secret. This is on Burp Suite's page, so I'm not giving anything away. You have 4 hours to do 2 web apps, and each web app has 3 vulnerabilities in it. But they don't tell you what it is or how to do them or anything like that. I know of a man who is a web app savant. Okay, if you could get a Mensa grant from doing web app pen tests, he would have it. Okay, he doesn't have it, and not for lack of trying. He went for the test, and he pulled some really hard web apps. On the other hand, I have another friend who took it and passed his second time, I think it was. So it's kind of like the OSCP in that it's kind of luck of the draw. Go for it. Last year, November, they did a $9 certificate attempt, and it's good for a year. Hopefully they do it again. I'm gonna go for it. I don't know if I'll pass or not, but I'm gonna at least try. That 4-hour time frame is kind of daunting. But if you can get it, flaunt it. If you can get it, that is a fantastic certificate. I would consider it a meal ticket. I don't know if anybody else would, but I would. So yes, Joel, I would recommend, I can't say I recommend it because of how difficult it is. I would say it would be nice to have. So if you've got the time, if you've got the money and you want to go for it after you've gone through PortStrigger, do it. I would say that's a good call. All right. Any other questions? We've got 4 minutes left, and I went through that faster than I thought I would. I realized about halfway through I was talking really fast. So I practiced it and it hit 40 minutes. And then when I was done, I was had 15 minutes to go. So, all right. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we can end a little early. On the speakers tab, my LinkedIn is there. You can click that and find me. A few people already have. Please feel free to do that. Hit me up if you have any questions. More than happy to answer that way. If you guys don't do LinkedIn, you do Twitter. Search me for Fearless Sec. And I showed that on the second slide, but then I remembered that you guys couldn't see my second slide. So I'll just put that there. If you have any questions you didn't want to ask in an open forum, or you think of something later, please hit me up. More than happy to talk, more than happy to help out. Derek, thank you. Appreciate that. And with that, if there is nothing else, then we will go ahead and call it. I'll give it another minute in case someone's typing. But otherwise, thank you guys for coming.